Sound matters. Be heard. Welcome to the podcast where you get exclusive behind-the-scenes tips to make your own show sound truly spectacular. This is Podtastic Audio.
Hey, what's happening? How are you doing today? How is your podcast coming along? Do you even have a podcast? Well, don't you even worry. I am here to help you. That's what Podtastic Audio is all about. I am Chris of the Chris and Christine Show podcast. You know, you can find out all you want to know about that show if you decide to look it up on the old interweb at chrisandchristineshow.com. And of course, there always, like always, there will be a link to that into the show notes of this episode today. So once again, how are you doing? How's your show? Do you even have a podcast? Well, don't you worry. You know, here we are into December of 2022 as I record this. Welcome to the holidays. It's the holiday season here around the world. Usually here in America, it gets really big with spending and buying and Santa Claus and Christmas and the spirit of Christmas. And if you're lucky enough, maybe you can get time off from work and you can stay home for the holidays. That must be like, what is it even like to even do that? I'm so jealous. You know, I have to work nonstop all the way through, but it's just the nature of the business that I'm in. It runs 24/7. So speaking of the holiday season and your podcast, I know there are a lot of shows that will take a break this time of year. They will probably stop, even making episodes or releasing episodes and taking a holiday break for your podcast. Now, should you take a break? Is it wise to take a break? Well, just like anything, it just depends on whether it works for you or doesn't work for you. But keep this in mind, that a lot of shows that do take breaks during this holiday season, there are still podcast listeners. And just because a podcast may go on break doesn't mean the listener to that other podcast still wants to listen to a podcast. So what you can do is use this time to your advantage to release new content that potentially you can grab new listeners that may fall off another show because that show is on break. They may gravitate towards your show because you're the only show left in town making content. Well, not exactly, but you get the point. What I'm saying is that if more people are going on break with their shows, don't go on break with your show. You are the last one standing and people can listen to your stuff. So over on the Chris and Christine Show, we're really kicking up a notch when it comes to the holiday stuff. This entire month long, we are going to dedicate it every episode to a Christmas themed or holiday themed episode all week long. So why not use this time to your advantage? Now, it's only if you can handle it, because the holiday season can be very stressful for many people. I mean, you're out buying stuff, you got the holiday stuff, you got the family stuff, maybe you're still doing work and you do Christmas shopping. The holidays can be very, very stressful for a lot of people. And I can see where having a podcast on top of all your other stuff could be very exhausting. You're like, gosh, I got a podcast still too, and I do all this other stuff. But for us, why not make the podcast part of the holiday experience? Why not make it part of the holidays? Now, your show is your show. Your show can be totally different than our show, and I'm sure it is. That's fine. Maybe your show has nothing to do with the Christmas spirit. It has nothing to do with holidays. But I'm pretty sure you can probably turn almost any show into a holiday-themed show of some kind, because everybody is talking about Christmas. It's all Christmas spirit going on right now. You could be a Scrooge. I don't know. You could be like, hate holidays. You don't want nothing to do with it. It could be anything like that. I mean, even if you're like, say, a movie review show, well, now is a great time to maybe talk about particular like holiday movies and talk about the movies you like, the Christmas movies you like. Or maybe even if it's a true crime show, I'm sure there's lots of holiday crime that happens and true crime events that has happened around the holiday season. You can talk about that stuff. You can turn your podcast into a holiday-themed show to keep it going for the holidays. You don't have to go on break. I mean, but you said you can go on break if you want to go on break. It's really up to you. So just this week, like maybe a couple days ago, as I record this episode, I'm going to tell you something that happened to us on the Chris and Christine Show. Now, in fact, the Chris and Christine Show is the main podcast, and this podcast, Podtastic Audio, is a podcast accompanying that podcast to tell you how I do things on that show. It kind of explained the behind the scenes stuff for the Chris and Christine show to help you create a better podcast for your show. No matter what show you have, no matter what genre you have, I'm here to help you create the best sounding podcast you possibly can with the gear you already have, of course. So just the other day, we released an episode last weekend. I think it was Monday. I released a new episode. It was our first Christmas themed episode. It was a very fun episode. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was awesome. I loved it. Christine loved it. We've had lots of responses. People have loved it. They say they loved hearing it. It was a great episode. There was no guest on the show. And that's another thing too. Just because you have a podcast does not mean you have to have a guest on every episode. I mean, I know that doing a solo show like the one I'm doing today, right now, it can be difficult for people. They have a hard time talking to the wall. In fact, I'm looking at the wall right now as I'm talking to you. I pretend you are the wall. That's how I do it. But that's why they have guests on their show and things like that. And I know that a lot of our audience have mentioned that sometimes the guests aren't always the best episodes. Sometimes the guests are kind of boring. I've heard that too. They're kind of a boring guest. So that's why when we do the Chris and Christine show, we always have like a good chunk of the first part of the episode is about us. We talk about our lives. It's just us talking. It's not the guest coming in. And then we bring the guest in because I think it's better to know the host of the show than it is to know the guest of the show, and it's solely only the guest of the show. But it's your show. You can do it however you want. But anyways, we did our show and it was fantastic. So I'm always checking out the numbers on my app. I have an app from my media host. It tells me the actual download plays, or actually just play count, but downloads, it's the same thing. So you get to see your play count. And I wanted to go check it one morning. It was a couple of days after we released it. I'm going to check see how it's doing. So I go on my app in the morning and I log on, and it's like doing the spinning wheel of death. We're just spinning around thinking, and nothing's pulling up. And I'm like, that's kind of odd. So then I'm looking at the player itself and I'm pushing play on the podcast episode. Okay, well, it's like it's playing. So what's up with that? Let me refresh it and see what's going on. So I refresh the feed and I'm like, it's still thinking and nothing's coming up. Well, that's odd. Well, let me pull up our website and go to our list of episodes, which is curated by Podpage, which pulls everything off your RSS feed. It's very easy to do. I think it pulls it off that or pulls it off iTunes or Apple or something like that. Anyways, it's got a full list of all your episodes and players built into it. So I go to there, and then the player is gone off of the Podpage. There's no player at all showing. I think that's kind of odd. What's up with that? So then the first thing I'm thinking is, well, maybe my internet's down. So I check my internet and it's working because obviously I went to Podpage and other places like that. So it's working just fine. So I'm like, what is going on? So then I go to my computer. So I go to my actual computer off the phone and I do the same thing. I go to the Podpage. I go to the website where our host is at. Nothing to be found. It's not there at all. Website down. Then I got to realizing, holy crap, our media host just disappeared and went down and crashed today. What am I going to do? Because now our podcast is not going to play anywhere. It won't play because everything comes off your RSS feed. Everything is attached to your media host. So what do you do when your media host, where your podcast is stored at, what do you do if that physically just goes down? What do you do? Well, first thing you do is try not to panic. I know it's hard because you're thinking this new episode just went out and nobody is hearing it. Or even if they do push play on it, nothing happens. And you're like, well, that's embarrassing because now my media host is nothing's playing. I don't know what to do. And especially think about this. If you had a guest episode, that episode, and you're like, hey, please share this with all your audience. And they're, yeah, I'm going to share this episode with all my audience. You give me the link and I will share it out and I'll play it and I can't wait to hear it. It'd be great. And then you give them the link and it doesn't work because the episode's down because your media host went down. That is also very embarrassing. So what do you do in that situation? So like I said, try not to panic and then try to troubleshoot everything you can. Like I checked the phone, I checked the app, I checked everything I could, and then I reset everything and it was still nothing. I checked a different device. It's very important to check multiple devices to make sure it's just not that one device. Maybe that one device lost connection to the internet for some reason. You don't know. Always check to make sure that you are connected to the internet. Make sure you have an actual solid connection to the internet. Once you can prove yourself that, yes, I am connected to the internet, then I can physically see if it's just a website. Then you can start doing your Googling. That's exactly what I did. I went and looked up, I searched up, our media host is such and such media host down. And I came across a website where it actually can check the actual servers, I guess, of that website you're looking for. It just pulled it up, and then I clicked on it, and it showed this little graph chart on top of the screen or middle of the screen. It was like very low at the very bottom of the graph. And then the last like 4 hours or so, it was a major spike of it being down, or problems or complaints, a spike of like all these problems. Like, well, obviously it's not me. Obviously it's got to be the entire media host is down. Thought maybe it was my problem, but no. So that was a little bit of relief knowing it wasn't just me. So then I went to the media host itself and to see if there was any kind of support page. And I found the support page, and it did recognize there is an issue with a lot of the podcasts not playing or whatever it was. So it was down, and I kept checking it and I kept checking it. Luckily, it was only down for maybe a few hours at that time, but heaven forbid it really goes down and you're trying to promote your show and nothing happens. It can be very frightening, which begs the question is like, why am I still hosting over there in the first place? I mean, it's our first podcast media host we use. We stuck with them. It's usually it works. I mean, usually we don't have these problems, but it's a very scary thing when your podcast media host goes down and you're trying to figure out what do I do to get it back. But like I said, don't panic. Just troubleshoot. If it's down for more than 24 hours, then I think you might have a problem. Maybe it's time to think of going elsewhere. And this probably can happen to almost any media host. I don't know if it's just the one that we are using, but I can imagine these things happen all the time. I think Twitter has gone down, Instagram's gone down, Facebook's gone down from time to time where you can't post or refresh or things like that. It's just the world we live in with technology. You got these big server farms, and who knows what happens. You know, I'm not a tech guy. I don't know the behind the scenes on how this stuff works exactly, but I do know that sometimes things like this do happen. And for the most part, when it comes to podcast media hosts, they're mostly all the same, really. I know that some give you more in depth with your stats. Like they can see, I know with Libsyn here, I'm on Libsyn now, is that I can see like episodes that played within the first 7 days. I can go check any episode and see what was it played like in the last 7 days, even how far back you want to go. Well, actually, for me, it's only back to when I updated to Libsyn. It only shows me data from when I started on Libsyn, which is only like maybe a month or two ago. So then it'll show you like 30 days for each episode and break it down like that, a lot of details and the countries and different things. And the one thing about Libsyn's stats I noticed is that they got two choices. They've got unique and they've got IAB stats. So the IABs are way lower, almost by half from the unique stats. I'm trying to figure out what the unique stats even mean. Between the uniques and the IAB, it really, I think it kind of throws out a lot of the computer generated, like computer download type stats. Anything that got downloaded, say like on a computer, I guess, or something along those lines, it kind of tosses that out. It really only focuses on like apps, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know there's a difference. I think a lot of the other podcast media hosts that do not use IAB stats or certified stats, they probably have their stats are probably very similar to Libsyn's unique stats because they are much higher. And I wonder if that's how ours are on the Chris and Christine show. I'm probably sure they follow that kind of format and that formula. But they're all probably pretty close and probably in the same ballpark, really, of what your stats really are. The only reason why you should care really much about the IAB certified stats is if you are going to have any kind of podcasting advertisements in your show. That is where the IAB really comes in, because an advertiser is going to want to see your IAB certified stats. And keep this in mind that most of the big advertisers, like the big name shows, the big name companies you might hear like on radio or TV or things like that, they are going to want to see a minimum, and I mean a minimum of 10,000 IAB certified stat downloads per episode, not total, not per month, not all of them for the month, not all of them for whatever. I'm talking per each episode. That's where looking at each episode's play kind of comes in handy. You can say this episode had this many plays, this episode had this many plays within the first I say 30 days. So you can look at those stats and find that stuff out with Libsyn's. They show that stuff with Libsyn, so you can see that kind of information. But 10,000 downloads, and even with the most average CPM, which is cost per milli, which is actually cost per 1,000 downloads, I think it was like $25 CPM. Which if you have a 10,000 downloads, I mean, you might make a few $100, $200 or $300. No, that's that's a lot of money, I guess, per episode to be making if you even up that level. But even if you made $250 an episode and you did a weekly episode, that's a grand total of $1,000 a month. Now that's a lot of money. It's $52,000 a year. That's quite a bit of money just from podcasting. But only a very, very small percentage of podcasts even get to that level to where they actually can do that. We're talking less than 1% of the podcasts fall into that camp to be able to do that. That means 99% of the rest of us aren't even close to doing that. I mean, even if you get, say, 1,000 downloads per episode, which I still think is quite a bit, you get 1,000 downloads per episode at the $25 CPM model. Now you're talking about getting like $25 an episode. Okay, it covers your hosting. It may cover a few things, which comes out to what, $100 a month. Now I don't know you, but $100 a month isn't enough to live on out here. I can't imagine only having $100 a month, especially when you have to still pay for your hosting and anything else you're going to be doing with your podcast. It's really hard to use the podcast itself, as the means of revenue for yourself. Like, people aren't just going to pay you just merely because you have a podcast. Oh, I have a podcast. Give me some money just because I have a show. There's got to be the what's in it for me thing going on. Like, the listeners can be like, well, what's in it for me? Like, what are you going to do for me? So if you can use your podcast to steer them in a direction that's going to help them do something, like there's going to be a benefit payoff for them, then they may be willing to actually help you out with a donation page, or maybe, check out that thing you mentioned, or purchase that product you do. Or even better, if you have your own product to sell, like your own book or course or tools or anything that you're doing yourself, you can use your own podcast as an advertisement for yourself. That's probably the best way to make any kind of money with your podcast, because it's you doing you. You don't have to rely on anybody else. You don't have to wait on getting 1 million downloads. Of course, those are nice too, but you don't have to worry. You don't have to get there before you can ask for an advertiser to advertise with you. And guess what? They take a cut of everything too. So if it's only you talking about you and your own services, guess what? You get 100% of the profit, because it's all you, man. So that's what I would suggest doing if you're trying to make money with your podcast. And for the record, you don't have to make any money with your podcast. You can have fun. For me, fun is the payment. I love having fun with the podcast, especially the Chris and Christine show. Like, I don't care if we make any money with the show. It's just fun doing it. And because we have fun doing it, people love and enjoy us doing it. So, if you want to make money with it, we advertise for Christine's business on there. And I have some new things happening in the works on Podtastic Audio. And maybe I'll promote those things when those things are fully launched and in the works too. So promoting yourself on your own podcast is the best way to make any kind of income with your podcast, really, should say. So on that note, I want to just say that I am extremely excited for 2023 to get here. And the reason why is I have some new things in the works coming up. And hopefully this will be the year. I think 23 is a lucky number. I'm pretty sure it is. So 23 is going to be the year for me. I'm going to have some exciting new things happening in the year 2023. I'm super excited to get this thing launched and to get things happening in the works. And I'm very, very excited that potentially podcasting could be a new frontier for me personally. And I think it's fantastic. And I want to say thank you once again for listening today. I am here to help you. That's the only reason this show exists. It's just to help you, create your podcast, because podcasting can be fun, but it can be a bit challenging if you don't really know what you're doing, So I'm going to share everything I know with you to make sure you can create your show the best way you can. And don't stress and worry about it. I know the holidays can be stressful. Everything can be stressful right now. the economy, being the way it is, it can be very stressful. I know companies are laying people off left and right. So I know how much stress it can really be this time of year, especially with everything going on. But you know what? Hopefully it all works out for you, and wish you a merry and happy holiday season for you and your family. And if you have any questions, you always can reach out at podtasticaudio.com. My information's over there. And until next time, you keep on making your fantastic audio with your amazing podcast, and I'll see you next time.